All right, Sports Uncapped here on Wednesday of a shortened February month. The 26th already, Mitchell. We're already into February, which means it is time almost for free agency. The scouting combine officially starting tomorrow with the linemen, defensive linemen, offensive linemen, all the measurements and the good stuff there. So a lot going on here tonight on the program. Vrabel went through his media rounds yesterday and had a lot to say, talking first on the podium, then talking on the side to the writers, and then going on NFL XM, their live shows, all of that good stuff. So Vrabel spoke yesterday. Elliot Wolf hit the podium today and declared himself the final decision maker, which is going to lead off the conversation here tonight. Ultimately, Elliot Wolf says he is the final say for the New England Patriots. So there are a few different comments here from the past couple of days that I want to hit on, both with Mike Vrabel talking about free agency, how the Patriots are going to spend dollars, how he just felt on the podium yesterday, which I think was extremely telling and kind of gives me the background that I need to go ahead and make my first point of the night, which I'll do. So we'll get to that here on the program. NFL scouting combine in Indianapolis. We talked about that, basically tampering town. And that is going to lead us to some Mike Reese thoughts from the other day about who the Patriots could be looking at number 4. I want to try to squeeze that in. We didn't do that on Monday. And also report card time for the New England Patriots. The NFLPA survey grades were released early this morning. And if you haven't heard, we'll give you some of the grades for the New England Patriots. Boy, Mitchell, did you enjoy report card time? Were you a good student?
Was I a good student? Yeah, fairly. I was a fairly good student. In high school, I was rambunctious. That's what a teacher called me. I thought she was just an idiot, and I told her that. So I think that's why she told me I was rambunctious. But that's a side note. But overall, I was a good kid.
Wait. No, I have to ask. You actually told the teacher they were an idiot?
Yes.
To their face?
Yes. My mom got a call. So for full disclosure, teacher gave us a map of Africa, and it had all resources on it, and they said color in about 10%, and then explain your reasoning for color it in. So I colored in all the gold and oil, and then she was like, "Why'd you do that?" And I said, "Because I never have to work a day in my life." Thought that was valid. She said,
Very valid.
She said that's not practical. I said, okay. Person next to me outlined it, and she said, "Why'd you outline it?" "Well, I want to be next to the water." Okay. So I said, I'm not going to say her name. I said, "Miss such and such, why was mine not practical, but that's valid?" And then she said, "Well, yours is just very outlandish." And I said, "But being next to the water, like, what are you going to do? Dip your feet over in one region and go to the other and dip it over there?" I was like, "Are you an idiot?" And then she said, "Go to your dean." And I said, okay, idiot. And I left.
All right. So if anybody doesn't know, by the way, because this doesn't come across on the air, Mitchell does not have a problem speaking his mind. You don't.
I don't. Yeah.
Don't. I mean, you don't come across as someone who is going to be confrontational and tell people how it is. But if I've learned from mostly stuff off the air, our private conversations I'm not going to get into, you have no problem telling people to shove it.
Yeah.
In a somewhat polite way. So,
yeah. I won't yell.
I like that.
I won't yell.
No.
But I'll tell you you're an idiot.
Right. No, that's great. I like that. You're an idiot. That's stupid. That's fine. All right, Mitchell. I want to play the cut of the day that's making the rounds here. If you could fire up number 2, Elliot Wolf here on the podium today. And, we'll listen to the audio and react.
Ultimately, it's my final say. But again, Mike said it yesterday, Mike wouldn't have taken this job, and this is something we talked about in the interview process. Mike wouldn't have taken this job if we weren't comfortable with each other. There's not going to be Mike's guys or Elliot's guys. They're going to be Patriot guys, and we're excited to share the vision to work together to improve the roster. Ultimately, it's
So, Mitchell, this has sparked conversation here again, going back to the hiring of Mike Vrabel even prior to that. Does this change your opinion on who actually has final say behind closed doors?
Yeah, I think I'm starting to think that this guy is an extension of Kraft.
Okay, so I agree with that. But do you think that he actually has final say on this roster?
I don't think he has the final say. I don't think it's his decision. I think he's going to say what the final word is, but I think it's going to come from Kraft. I think that's what it's going to be. I think he is going to
on the roster. You think Kraft is making decision on players? Because I don't think that's what you mean.
So this is what I'm saying. I think Elliot Wolf's going to talk with Kraft, and he's going to make a case for stuff. I think Vrabel's going to do the same thing, and I think again you're going to have Elliot Wolf there, and he's going to say, "Listen, Kraft, I'm telling you, I'm just going to throw this out there as an example. I hope this isn't a conversation, but hey, this kid Travis Hunter, he can play receiver and play defensive back. He's going to be there at 4. I'm thinking we take him. Vrabel's not going to like it. He's going to tell you it's a bad idea because of X, Y, and Z, but I'm telling you, Kraft, I think this is going to be a good move." And then Vrabel's going to come in and say, "I don't like him. I don't want a gadget player. I say we trade back." And after that, I think, again, this guy's been around a lot longer. I don't know what his relationship is like with Kraft, but he gives me vibes from watching clips. I think this guy is a snake oil salesman. I think he's a snake in the grass, and I wouldn't buy anything that this guy is selling. He's a used car salesman. I don't trust him, and there's something up.
So
I think he's going to try to pitch stuff to Kraft, and then he's going to try to convince Kraft that it should be this way. So I think Kraft ultimately has the final say, but I think there's going to be like some sort of meeting, if that makes any sense.
So I think they kept him around because Kraft likes him. I do. I think that Robert Kraft believes in Elliot Wolf going back to his days in Green Bay, and the Ron Wolf, the Green Bay grading system. And this is something Kraft has said on the record, that it takes more than just 1 year to implement a whole new grading process. Bill had his way of doing it, and obviously Bill is out the door, and with that goes one guy who did a whole lot of different things and had people underneath him who either did it his way or they didn't do it his way, and a lot of times he didn't listen to people who didn't do it his way or see it his way. We all know about that. I do think it's interesting that Elliot Wolf is still here in the mix as we get to draft time, and I do think that people have a concern that Elliot Wolf is still here, not as just de facto GM, but that he's back and that he is the director of player personnel, not just by title, but that he is going to work with Mike Vrabel, but ultimately he will have the final say. I call BS. And I'm not telling you there's not a concern about running up the back steps to Robert Kraft from Elliot Wolf and then having, Mike Vrabel run up the back steps and go to Robert Kraft and then having to basically make their arguments behind closed doors, neither one on the same page. I don't believe there's going to be an issue like that. Mike Vrabel is calling the shots, and nobody wants to say it officially because you do have a structure here, and no one wants to step on any toes. Mike Vrabel is the final decision maker. I'm convinced of it. More experience than anybody in that front office, more of a track record, more of a resume. And as I listened to Mike Vrabel talk the other day, he doesn't come out and just flat and say, no, I have final say, because I don't think that does anything for the working relationships of people within that building. But listen to him command the podium and listen to him talk. He's not saying it with the actual words, but he's outlining basically that he is the one that's building this team back, that he is in charge of rectifying the mistakes of the past regimes of ownership and of the front office, of the personnel staff, of all of it. So here's how I figure it out to be. Okay, yeah, Vrabel identifies players, okay? Then he collaborates, and I put that in quotes, with Elliott Wolf and the rest of the front office. And then they go about it as, okay, we have to execute this move, and this is how we're going to do it. And I don't think that Vrabel won't listen to other people, but I do think there is an essence of Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick to Mike Vrabel, which is the arrogancy and also the fact that they want players that fit their schemes and that they're going to be dug in on that. And Mike Vrabel wouldn't be here if he didn't know that he was going to bring in players who fit his identity of the New England Patriots, who are going to, once again, get out the entitlement from the building, make players earn it, get back to a hard-nosed, tough-in-the-trenches type of team who works hard but earns their rights, earns their opportunities. And I think if you're giving final decision-making power to Elliott Wolf, you're a moron, and the Crafts are morons. And I don't believe that they're morons. I don't. I think they've operated as a second-rate organization. I think they've been a poor ownership group as of the past 5 seasons, and we've outlined that several times, mistake after mistake, compounding them. This year, at least, they didn't compound it by bringing back Gerard Mayo to do him a favor because it wasn't fair and all of that. But you listen to more of Elliott Wolf from today. Elliott Wolf admitted, and actually, why don't we play this? It's a longer cut. It's about a minute. Mitchell, number 4, if you will. This is Elliott Wolf's opening statement today.
Last season, ultimately, the roster was on me. We were 4-13. Just didn't get enough done. Certainly, the free agency class didn't live up to our expectations. The draft class, it's too soon to tell, but we were expecting a bigger impact from some of those guys, and we're still hopeful that they'll get to that point. We're excited about Drake May. We're excited about working with Coach Vrabel, and everything that we're doing is to improve this football team and getting to where we need to go. The fans understanding their frustrations. I share those frustrations. It's been difficult. Every hit on Jacoby or Drake during the season, I felt responsible for that. Just ultimately, we didn't get enough done up front. The game is always won on the lines, offensive line, defensive line, not just because of the Super Bowl. It's always been that way. And, ultimately, just didn't do enough to improve the roster to get it to where we need it to be.
So that was Elliott Wolf. Now, in that cut, you didn't hear him say he didn't feel like they were thorough enough last year in their research. Okay, they weren't thorough enough in diving into what the team needed. So let me ask you this question without hearing that cut. I don't want to play cut after cut after cut on an hour program. We have a lot to try to get into. You think Mike Vrabel is going to listen to Elliott Wolf and take direction from Elliott Wolf, who admittedly failed last season and said that he wasn't thorough enough last season in his first year as de facto GM in the seat that makes the final decisions? Nope. Don't buy it. Mike Vrabel's not coming to New England to take direction and directives from Elliott Wolf, Matt Groh, and that staff who has failed season after season after season in whichever roles they've been in. And I realize the waters get murky as you go back to the Bill years, because how much was Bill actually listening to other people? But we know Matt Groh had a big hand in bringing in Tyquan Thornton. Remember, you want fast guys, you got to draft fast guys. Tyquan Thornton, no longer on the team. Matt Groh was demoted, so it was Elliott Wolf's turn. Elliott Wolf, last year, failed the offensive line, failed basically all over the roster. It was the worst roster in the NFL, maybe the second worst roster in the NFL. Vrabel's not coming in here and listening to that. Mike Vrabel wouldn't be here if he was taking orders from a guy who failed in free agency and failed in the draft. and did it on such a level that the roster was void. This was supposed to be a rebuilding year. So Wolf was a tiebreaker last year, sure. Now it is Mike Vrabel. Wolf's not going to admit it. So this is where I think people, hang on the quotes and break down the words and everything like that. I do the same thing. We know how much I love to break down an audio clip, love to read the words and hear how it's said and then read, what the actual words were. But I'll tell you this. He's not going to admit that he was demoted or that his role has been diminished if he doesn't have to. He's still in that role. But you know the difference? You actually have a guy who is experienced, who's been a head coach, who's been a player, who's been a part of, picking the roster and putting together the team there in Tennessee. And there were issues there in Tennessee. And I think Vrabel does, warrant some of that criticism and some of that blame. But Wolf's not going to say openly on a microphone, no, it's not me. There's a structure there. As long as it's understood within the building, who is actually calling the shots, it doesn't need to be made public. He's not going to humiliate himself. Mike Vrabel's not going to go out of his way to put down Elliott Wolf, a guy who he is going to work with, who I feel like it was part of the negotiations when Mike Vrabel came here, decided to take the job here in New England when he had plenty of other options throughout the league, either the top candidate or the second top candidate for all of the teams in the National Football League, that, I'm going to come here, but I'm going to listen to Elliott Wolf. No, Robert, I'm fine with that, okay? I'm fine with that. I just want my voice to be heard, but it's okay. Elliott can make the final call. It doesn't make any sense. And if you listen to Mike Vrabel over the years, does this sound like a guy that's going to listen to Elliott Wolf? They can talk about how they're on the same page and the collaborative approach, and they're not going to be Mike's guys, and they're not going to be Elliott guys. It's going to be Patriots guys, and they can play nice, and they can do all of that, which Vrabel did in his introductory press conference when he mentioned Elliott Wolf, and he went out of his way to mention his name a ton of times. The reality of it is Mike Vrabel is the guy. Remember that quote? Remember not the quote. Remember listening to Adam Schefter with Pat McAfee? Braves the guy, right? Braves the man. No, Braves is the man. We played it on the show. Teddy Bruschi talking about there are guys there who need to be told they don't know what they're talking about, okay? There's a new boss in town. That's the reality of the situation. Everybody's just playing nice. Elliott Wolf is going to have responsibilities, don't get me wrong. He's not just a tadpole. He's not just getting coffee and, doing all the odd jobs around the office. Oh, wait, hey, Mike, you need your office vacuum? Is that trash emptied? You want me to grab that for you? It looks like it's full. You want me to? We'll change the bag out tomorrow? Is that good? That's not Elliott Wolf. He's going to, he's going to work on contracts. He's going to talk to teams. He's going to, open up negotiations with agents or other things, et cetera. Go on down the list, whatever you want to do. I'm not a GM. I'm not going to pretend I know the everyday jobs and doings of a GM, okay, or a front office person. He's going to have responsibilities. But if Mike Vrabel says, I want this player, okay, Elliott, go off there and now do that stuff. Mike Vrabel's not going to get on the phone with every single free agent, right? He can't do all the intel, all the research, all the scouting. So he has to work with what the Patriots have had in hand. It's tough to bring in someone completely brand new and do all the draft stuff here, starting on when he was hired in January up to here, this point in February. That's impossible. But Vrabel wouldn't be here if he didn't have the final say, okay? That's the reality of it. Mitchell, if you could play Vrabel number 1 for me.
Final say when it comes to making personnel decisions.
Well, I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't have wanted to be the head coach here if I wasn't comfortable in my impact on the roster. So we want to, continue to have great conversations with the personnel staff, with me, with Stretch, with coaching. We're all just trying to find ways to bring the right players in here.
So that was just a quick snippet. That was with Phil Perry. I didn't hear the whole cut. So I don't know if somewhere in that answer he mentioned Elliott Wolf or there was a reason he left him out, but I didn't hear his name. Mike Vrabel brought around Ryan Cowdy. Okay, they brought him over from the Giants. The Giants GM spoke yesterday, showing Joe. What's his name? Do you know his name, Mitchell? It's Schoen or something like that.
Joe, it is Schoen.
Schoen. Okay.
Yeah.
He spoke glowingly about Ryan Cowdy and how it was tough to lose him. They're close friends. They were brought up. That was they didn't just bring him over there to work and play nice. Vrabel brought him in to overlook Elliott and his staff. Just like the Crafts still have in place Elliott Wolf. There's the checks and balances, but there is a final decision maker. Okay, there is a guy who drops the hammer, and that's Mike Vrabel. Listen to him talk. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have wanted to be the head coach if I wasn't comfortable with my impact on the roster. Listen to the guy talk and understand who he is as a person. That's not a guy who's taking crap. So, Mitchell, I don't have any different feelings about the power structure here. I don't at all. They all report to the Crafts. That's going to be it. And a lot of people don't, we spent so many years of Bill Belichick, having final say and having that control. And Bill was really last of the Mohicans in that respect. Like, that power structure does not exist in the NFL anymore, where there is one guy calling all the shots and no one can check them. That's why you don't see it throughout the course of the NFL, which is why Bill doesn't have a job right now. He can't play nice in the sandbox with others. So they're all going to report to Robert Kraft, but believe me, the one who has the most impact, the person whose say carries the most is going to be Mike Vrabel. I don't feel any differently about this. I do concern myself a little bit, Mitchell, with what you talked about, which is how much of Elliott Wolf being around was a compromise by Vrabel, but was really because the Crafts didn't want to move on from guys who, again, they were comfortable with and would also fill them in so that they weren't shut out. Bill shut them out. Bill didn't talk to him. You think if Robert asked a question about a thought process on bringing in a player or passing on a player or the coaches or anything like that Bill gave Robert any real deep analysis into it? No, he said, listen, it's in my contract. I can do this. I'm not wasting my time explaining it to you. That's Bill Belichick for you. So that's what I worry about. But Mitch, my concern is not that Elliott Wolf is working with Mike in a collaborative approach. That's out the door. Brewski even said it. He's close with Vrabel. So the concern, I don't have it. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm just worried that this guy is just, like I said before, a snake oil salesman. I'm worried that he's in Robert Kraft's ear, and he's going to tell him anything and everything he wants to hear, and not give him the brutal, honest truth. And that is that this team sucks right now. You're not who you used to be. The organization, it's in shambles. No one wants to play here. And you don't have any superstars that people look at and they go, whoa, they have that guy? Unless if you're a fan of the organization. That's the truth of the matter of the fact. I feel like, again, just this guy, Elliott Wolf, there's something about him. I just don't trust him. I feel like if this was the late 1800s or the early 1900s, he would be selling me mercury and trying to tell me if I drink it once every single day, it'll make me feel 20 years younger. That's just the kind of vibe that he gives off. I just don't think that. I think that the Brewski comment that you mentioned about some people don't know football, I think that was directed at Elliott Wolf. Sometimes these guys, they come from, these different backgrounds of finance. Typically, it's more of a financial background, and they think that they know football because they look at analytics. And I'm sick and tired of these stupid idiot bozos that think that because they look at a piece of paper that they understand football. There's so much to football. If you have a guy who is a third receiver on a team, let's say it's the Ravens, and he's the third receiver, they don't pass that much. Is he a better receiver now because he goes to a team like Denver that likes to air it out? No, he's going to put up better numbers, but he's been the same guy the whole time. It's all about the system. It's all about the competition, especially when you look at the collegiate level. I say it every single year we get to this time. Competition matters. I don't want to look at the kid who's playing against West Wyoming. I'm sorry. You got 3 touchdowns on him? Cool. Good for you, man. I hope you kept the game ball. But if you do that against Alabama, you go on the radar because Alabama's a legitimate team. That's what it's about. And this guy here, sticking his neck out for a guy like Tyquan Thornton, why? Because he's fast? No. What it takes to be a great receiver in the NFL, it's not just about speed. Speed does kill, but a guy like Tyreek, he's not just fast. He's a great route runner.
Yeah.
He's got great
He
hands.
has 2 hands, too. Yeah, he has 2 hands.
and, you know, it takes all these different things. And this guy here, again, he's going to go ahead and sell you horse mess and try to tell you it's caviar, but that's not true. And I don't think he's the guy for this now. I think he has this offseason to prove it. And if he falls flat on his face, I hope Rabel goes up to Kraft and says, after 1 year, and if the team falls again because of decisions by this donkey, he needs to go up to Kraft and say, it's either me or this guy, and you can choose. You can choose. I mean, I think that's what it's going to take because this guy, again, I have no faith in him, and I think Kraft, and similar to Bill, I think Bill has done this too. These are guys that have egos, and they like it when people go ahead and play up on their ego. Matt Patricia, not this past year, but the year before, was the DC for the Philadelphia Eagles. And what happened? They got knocked out of the first round. The only thing that changed with that team is you signed Zach Braun, linebacker. You drafted Cooper DeJean, and you drafted Quinyon Mitchell. 3 players. And that defense looked 100% different because you didn't have that we'll just say bag, that guy going ahead and calling plays with his lead pencil on a laminated sheet. Coaching matters. Decisions matter as far as drafting. And you can't look at just a stat sheet. You can't just look at these analytics. You can't just look at the finances. You need to watch the tape. You need to look at things with all the context. That is the sport of football. Context matters. And you need to draft accordingly.
Yeah, so listen, I'm not sticking up for Elliott Wolf. I think he's done a miserable job, and I personally would have moved away from him, gone through the whole process of the Rooney Rule, and looking for another GM. I do understand if you're keeping the scouting department around through typically what is their contracts, which runs through April. I think Elliott Wolf has a longer contract in place than that. But Elliott Wolf does come from a football background, and Ron Wolf in Green Bay. I don't think he's strictly an analytics guy, a numbers guy, the stat sheet. I do think he has an eye for football. It's tough to make that case after watching the team that they rolled out last year and the way they addressed the offensive line and just how bad that was and the playmakers around it too. But I do think that Elliott Wolf has a football acumen. I'm not going to go as far as that. I think Bruschi was more talking about Robin Glazer, but maybe he was talking about Elliott Wolf. I mean, it's completely plausible based on how last season went. But I'll tell you this. If you're Robert Kraft and you hire Mike Vrabel, your team was 4-13 last year. You've been 8-23 the past 2 years. Who do you trust more to rebuild your franchise? Because right now it's a laughingstock. Right now you have 1:00 games. You have fans not showing up to games. You have empty seats at the end of the season. You have empty seats when your team is actually winning. That game against the Jets where people left in the fourth quarter. So listen, I think that Robert Kraft, although he's operated stupidly, I don't think he's that stupid. Maybe he is. I mean, maybe Robert Kraft has completely lost it. I can't go that far to believe that they would entrust the final decision-making power to Elliott Wolf, given Mike Vrabel's pedigree, his background, and what he's done in the National Football League as a player, as a coach, and building a team there in Tennessee, which I realized was not perfect, but they also didn't have a great quarterback. More to it. All right, let's see here. I do want to we'll take a commercial break. I want to get back to some free agency talk. How are the Patriots going to approach free agency? How are they going to spend their money? And there is plenty of it. Plenty of it. They lead the league in cap space. I'll say cap space. Cap space is not actual dollars spent, but they lead the league in cap space. Plenty of moves out there to make in what is still a down free agency class. Not a great year for the Patriots to have all this money with very few players out there really worthy of overpaying. But yet, we'll give you what Mike Vrabel said, what Elliott Wolf said, and we'll get into the discussion of how this money is going to actually be allocated and break down what Mike Vrabel said yesterday. We'll do that here on the program after a commercial break. Tonight's program, you can reach us, Sports Uncapped, WCAP @gmail.com. Also, the Milltown Electrical Service text line, 978-454-4980. We'll get to all of that and more here as the program progresses right after a commercial break.
Hopefully aggressive. I mean, we want to be aggressive. We want to target players that we feel like are going to help us. They're going to be outstanding players. They're going to be outstanding additions to the locker room and the community. And if that all fits and the compensation fits, but I'm confident that we'll be aggressive. We've started some of those discussions internally. And I think having different plans and having an option A and option B, I mean, things are going to change. Everybody's looking at the same players. So we have to be ready to pivot and adjust and have a vision for each player, I would say, at each level. You know, I mean, there's going to be this high level that things are going to get done very quickly. That'll transition then to, you know, maybe just some mid-range dollars, and then obviously you look at opportunities. So free agency gets broken down into, you know, compensation, and then it gets broken down into opportunity. And I feel like we're in a position to offer both as far as compensation and opportunity for some of these players. Hopefully aggressive. I mean,
we got opportunity and compensation. Mike Vrabel on the podium yesterday asked about the Patriots' approach to free agency. I think, Mitchell, what really stuck out to people was the first couple words. Hopefully aggressive. I mean, we want to be aggressive. Hopefully aggressive. Mitchell, are you concerned at all that the Patriots are not going to be as aggressive as you'd like them to be? What do you think Vrabel means by hopefully aggressive?
So when I heard that, the very first thing that popped in my head was worst case scenario, and that is Kraft lured Vrabel in, dangled the job in front of him, and then said, you can do this, and now he's pulling the rug from out underneath him. And if that is the case, if I'm Vrabel, I do 1 year and I leave. And I would throw Kraft under the bus. I mean, that might hurt his coaching career, but, I mean, something's got to change. And again, to say hopefully, Vrabel's a guy, when we saw him in that introductory press conference, he was very deliberate. Very deliberate. Yeah, he can prepare things more. Like, you don't know what you're going to get asked at these, at these combine interviews, because they might ask about prospects. They might ask about your players. There's a wider range of questions. When you go to the introductory press conference, it's going to be about what's going to be different. What do you think about the team last year? What about your experience? There's less questions, and they don't vary off into 20 different directions. I mean, someone could ask, what about a dual Carter? If he's there at 4, do you take him? Someone's going to ask Vrabel that. They're going to ask him, the development of Drake May, how important is that? Or, if Travis Hunter's at 4, do you take him? Like, they're going to ask about individual people. And, there's more questions to be asked at the Combine than there is at an introductory press conference. But it's worrisome. It's worrisome. I hope that, again, Kraft is not pulling the rug from out underneath Vrabel. I think he should be doing anything and everything that he can to help support him. I mean, since Brady has left, we had the hit piece documentary against Bill Belichick where Kraft did his best Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 2 where he's trying to stop the train, and that's what it looked like, him trying to keep Tom and Bill together. He's trying to pull them together and make sure that everyone is playing nice with each other. Super Kraft. And now it's just him. It's just him. And the team, I mean, I don't think anyone is sitting there going, why is this team not the same since Brady left? I mean, you got to find that next guy, but no one's ever going to be as good as Brady. I don't think that'll ever happen. And that's just, again, it's just natural. I don't think it's, finding the guy is tougher than just go in the draft, get that quarterback. It's tougher. It's tougher. You have to have these interviews, and they should have really had a backup plan. You look at the 49ers, they went from Montana to Steve Young. You look at the Packers, Brett Favre to Rodgers to Jordan Love. Patriots, maybe Stady the Kitty. Well, we didn't like that he went to the hospital to go get a second opinion. Bring in Cam. Cam for 1 year. Mac Jones pissed off Bill. Well, now it's Bailey. Now it's Drake May. So, I mean, it's just so much all at once.
So, for me, I looked at it, I heard it differently. So, I get the hopefully aggressive. And people say, what do you mean, hopefully aggressive? Are there already going to be restraints on what they spend? Every owner has a budget. And I believe that budget and what they have at their disposal was talked about prior to Vrabel taking the job. Again, this goes back to final say. I think Vrabel is a very smart guy. He's experienced. He's been around the league. And hearing the words hopefully aggressive shows you that he's experienced on the podium. What do I mean by that? He doesn't want to make false promises, okay, clips that will come back to bite him by making bold statements about being aggressive and then being asked in hindsight, well, why did you word it that way when you guys did X, Y, and Z? Last year, you heard the burn some cash comment from Gerard Mayo. Again, inexperienced, getting a little too giddy, talking out of turn, and not knowing what players out there will actually accept your offer and where you wanted to go with that money. So I think Vrabel comes from a position of, I've had experience on the podium. When I say hopefully aggressive, I don't think that he means he's hopefully going to be aggressive. They're going to have players that they've circled, guys that they want to go after. You heard him talk about plan A, plan B. Everybody's going after the same players. You have to be ready to pivot. When I hear hopefully aggressive, what he means is hopefully we're going to get the guys that we've targeted and that we put a premium on. And we all know how there are tiers and they break this stuff down, and there's already an understanding of who is either potentially going to be a free agent, who's potentially going to be available in trades, but a lot is yet to shake out. So I think when you hear that, to me, it's just Mike Vrabel saying, hopefully aggressive, but meaning hopefully we'll land on the players that we want and it will show an aggressive nature to it. Because I think that the false promises and the burn some cash stuff was played up so much last year when you look at what the Patriots actually did. They spent money, but they spent money retaining their own players. So he's talking about free agency, and he's saying, yeah, I'm hopefully, we'll be aggressive. We'll have players that we're going to target that we think can help us. In a different clip, he talked about how everybody is picking from the same players, and there's definitely going to be guys that you're willing to go out there and spend extra on, and that you need to spend extra on, but there are also going to be guys that may not be viewed as aggressive splashes, but they're going to improve our football team. Another quote from him in talking about free agency, quote, I like to shop like everybody else. And so when you go out there and there's only one of a certain car, maybe you have to pay a little bit more for that one car because there's only one of them. When you start to get into the range where you feel like there's an area where players are comparable and you like 3 or 4 players in a certain area for a certain role, you may not have to overspend. But it's free agency. I think everybody overspends sometime in free agency. To me, he knows that the guys that are out there that are going to be the big names are going to warrant the most cash and are going to be overpaid. And he's telling you, hopefully we'll get those guys. We are going to make aggressive offers. He talks about an opportunity and compensation. He knows what he has to spend, and he knows how he wants to spend it. Now, will that all shake out? We'll see. I don't have any concern that of him not spending on players. I think some people's opinion on how he'll spend the money, how they'll spend the money, is maybe going to be a surprise to some. Because I think that when you look at how Mike Vrabel wants to build a team, it might not be sexy. It's up the middle, offensive line, defensive line, in the trenches, and people are clamoring for that wide receiver, whether it be, the T. Higgins or, some of these other names that are available on the free agent list, but they're few and far between. I think those are players that he's willing to spend on. Then I think you're going to see some middle of the pack players, some really good football players who people may not be as knowledgeable about, who may not have as much information on, but are going to help build that culture of the team. I mean, the reality is it's going to come down to dollars and cents because marquee free agents aren't coming in New England. It's not an attractive destination right now for the state that the team is in, but also the weather and the high tax rate of Massachusetts. So he knows that. I think what he's saying there is don't get too excited to be let down. Yeah, we're going to be aggressive, but hopefully we'll get the guys. That's probably the words that if you really ask them, that's what he meant. That's what I think. And I think that's just coming from an experienced place where, you know, you're not tilting your cards. You're not letting people see what you're doing, but everybody knows what kind of cap space you have. And I'll say the cap, I believe it. It's crap. You can manipulate it however you want. But I think he knows his budget that every owner outlines. Crafts are no different. And he just didn't want to step in it with a comment. All right, I do want to mention this, Mitchell. I forgot, although you texted me in the break to remind me. Mitchell, do you want to make the announcement? Because I feel like I'll make it. So Mitchell has been working hard behind the scenes.
Yep.
He's been building up our YouTube page. He edits all the programs down. Mm-hmm. He posts all the programs up there on YouTube, but also on Spotify and on, is it Rumble, Mitchell?
Rumble.
I don't know. Rumble. Is that a new one? What is Rumble? I don't know what Rumble is.
It is it's pretty much the YouTube competitor.
Okay. All right. So
it's another video sharing site. They're up and coming. Like they're still establishing themselves. So I figured they're still establishing themselves. Why not?
Yep.
And then
okay.
I've been looking into other ones too. So we might be also posting to Apple Podcasts as well as Vimeo. Yep. So we're looking into those ones as well. So
there we go. Mitchell is tapped in with this stuff. Mitchell is the technical guy on the show, as you can tell. Mm-hmm. The Reddit, threads, all that stuff. Mitchell, that is your ballpark. And,
I love my Reddit threads. I love saving posts and coming back to it. Especially like that one time in 2014, I saved a post and I came back to it in 2020 and told the guy I was right. I waited 6 years.
I can't remember 6 hours ago if I don't take a note down. Mm-hmm. I really can't. It's not great. My notepad in my phone is like loaded up with the bare basics of laundry, food shop. Don't forget this at the store. Don't forget that at the store. I mean everything.
I have another post. That one's on Facebook. I have it saved, and that one's from 2013. I've got to see what happens this year with Rodgers. If he retires, I got to go make another comment. So,
all right.
I told him Rodgers will never win another Super Bowl. That's what I told the guy in 2013. It still holds true to this day.
It does, and I don't see that changing. We can get into Rodgers. You want to discuss Rodgers?
Another time.
I heard today that he his representatives or himself. I didn't hear the full report. Asked the Giants about their interest in his services. So just a little something I heard today. So again, if you miss a program or you want to hear something again, review the tape, as they say, call us out for something that we said that I probably won't remember. Mitchell will definitely remember. That's not a problem. But you want to go back, point it out, and say, aha, see, you were wrong, dumbass, or something like that. You can do that. YouTube, Rumble, Spotify with, it sounds like more to come. So, again, our email, sportsuncapped, WCAP@gmail.com, 978-454-4980, the Milltown Electrical Service text line. We'll get to more of the program, final segment of the show, right after these words.
This is the moment we waited for. Everything you want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year. Shoot 'em a shot, boy, I'm long range. Me and the team on the same thing. Stay down, never switched up. Only thing changed was the game. I'm in the zone now. Nothing can change what we on now. When I pull up, no, it's
all right. final segment of the program. We'll get around to Reese and his quick hits, thoughts, and notes from Sunday Combine. This feels very fitting. Mitchell, what do you think Reese wrote the other day? Who are the Patriots targeting? Who do you think is a good fit at 4 for them, given how Vrabel seems to want to build his team?
I say your best bet is Abdul Carter. I think if he's not there
I
at
would love
4,
Abdul Carter.
Yeah, if he's not there at 4, you trade back. I think you got to trade back.
Okay.
There's no one in those top 4. The Cam Ward, he's a quarterback. Shedeur Sanders, quarterback, and I'm going to go on record here now. Neither one of those guys are going to pan out. I don't think they're that talented. I don't think they can read a defense. I don't think they have the skill set needed to work out in the next level. Tom Brady has worked with Shedeur Sanders, and the fact that the Raiders I don't think they're even they've talked to him, and Pete Carroll has looked at him. They're not interested in him. They're just doing it as a courtesy, and that's it. And Travis Hunter, don't want him. I think the whole gadget thing, I think it's a gimmick. I don't think he's really above average I don't think he's great. I think he's above average at both positions. I don't think he's great. I don't think he warrants a first-round pick.
Okay, well, I mean, that's crazy, given the talent in this draft. Travis Hunter will be in the top 3 picks, I believe. I don't see him slipping to 4. Anything's possible. Abdul Carter, the Penn State linebacker, I would love.
Yeah.
Today, and I'll set this up here, Rap Sheet, Ian Rappaport, reported that the Patriots have given defensive tackle Devon Godchaux permission to seek a trade. And that fits right in with what Reese wrote. So here was Reese on Sunday. Graham, a fit at 4, talking Mason Graham, defensive tackle from Michigan. Reese writes, when Mike Vrabel was introduced as Patriots head coach on January 13th, he cited 2 areas he believes statistically produce the highest odds of success, affecting the opposing quarterback and an efficient passing game on offense. Vrabel and company traveled to the NFL scouting combine in Indianapolis this week, and they'll be taking a closer look at prospects who could help them achieve those goals. Their focus starts with number 4 in the draft, with Michigan defensive tackle Mason Graham figuring to spark a compelling discussion if Penn State linebacker Abdul Carter and Colorado cornerback/receiver Travis Hunter are selected within the top 3. The Patriots uncertain that LSU offensive tackle Will Campbell is worthy of the pick. Do they turn to Graham as the first defensive lineman picked in a deep class? So Graham is a standout. He's a blue chipper. I think that I could see them taking him at 4, Mitchell. And I wouldn't, if he's there, I think they have to make a pick that is the most surefire bet at 4. And defensive line, they need the help. Like, especially if they trade away Godchaux. I could see this guy being the pick. I can. I mean, Jeffrey Simmons was taken by Vrabel in Tennessee as soon as he got there. I could see Graham being that guy. I could. Not sexy, again, but I could see it panning out that way. We'll have more talk about this. As the combine tomorrow. We'll be looking at how long Will Campbell's arms are, the length of his arms, because that's a big discussion this week, Mitchell, at the combine, if you haven't heard. The length of his arms at tackle. All right. That's been the show. We'll get to the report card on Friday. We'll get to what I teased on Monday. Brady, Vegas, Carroll, or the New England Patriots with Robert Kraft, Mike Vrabel, and Drake May. Who is more attractive? Who could persuade free agents? We'll get to that talk and more on Friday. Until then, thanks for listening tonight. Good night, Merrimack Valley.